Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Premanande Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotarashata Sri Srimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Shaivan Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasan Tato Jayamudirayet Nasupraya Shurabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 18, Text number 7. Tamni sarantam shalilaranudrito Tamni sarantam salilaranudrito Hiranyakesho dviradam yathajasaha Karaladam stro sanini svano bravit Gata hridyam kim tva asantam garhitam Tamnir smarantam salilaranudrito Hiranyakesho Dviradam Yata Jasaha Karaladam Stro Saninisvano Bravit Kata Hrityam Kim Asatam Vijardhitam Tamni Smarantam Salilada Nudrito Hiranyakesho Dviratam Yatajasaha Karaladam Stro Sanini Svano Bravit Kata Hridyam Kim Svarasatam Vigarhitam. Nishtatam Salilana Nudrito Naradam Sto Saninishvano Bravit Vigargitam. Matajis. Nishadantam Sharirada Nudrito Tam him Nisarantam coming out Salilat from the water Anudrataha chaste Hiranyakeshaha having golden hair Dviratam an elephant Yata as Jasaha a crocodile Karala Dramsra having fearful teeth Ashani Nisvanaha roaring like thunder, abravit, he said, Gata hridyam, for those who are shameless, kim, what, two, indeed, asatam, for the wretches, vigarhitam, reproachable. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: the demon who had golden hair on his head in fearful tusk gave chase to the Lord while he was rising from the water, even as an alligator would chase an elephant. Roaring like thunder, he said, "Are you not ashamed of running away before a challenging adversary? There is nothing reproachable for shameless creatures." Purport: when the Lord was coming out of the water and taking the earth in his arms to deliver it, the demon derided him with insulting words. But the Lord did not care, because he was very conscious of his duty. For a dutiful man, there is nothing to fear. Similarly, those who are powerful have no fear of derision or unkind words from an enemy. The Lord had nothing to fear from anyone, yet he was merciful to his enemy by neglecting him. Although apparently he fled from the challenge, it was just to protect the earth from calamity that he tolerated Hiranyayaksha's deriding words. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakoya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svampadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyabari Pashyachadeshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Durgame Pati Minantasya Sakalat Paragater Mahur Swakripa Yasti Danena Santa Sanvavalambanam. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a verse which says, Aham made me sako veti, vyasa veti na veti va, bhaktya bhagavatakrayam, na buddhaya na chatikaya. This verse says that I, Lord Shiva is speaking, I know Srimad Bhagavatam, sako veti. Shukadev Goswami, he knows Srimad Bhagavatam because he's heard it from Vyasadeva. Vyasa veti na veti va. Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he may or may not know Srimad Bhagavatam. So why is this relevant? Because the Acharyas explain that the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam is not as important as the hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, the hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam has the ability to pull something out of the speaker. So when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, at the beginning of class every day, we recite this Mangala Charnam. These prayers that we recite before we begin reading the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to, Mangala Charnam literally means to invoke auspiciousness, to invoke divinity. So it's important for the speaker to recite them, but it's equally important for the hearers of the Srimad Bhagavatam to also pray for the mercy of the previous Acharyas, that they can develop a strong mood of inquiry during the Srimad Bhagavatam class, so that even if the speaker is unqualified, even if the speaker is someone who is of a less devotional stature than, Shukadev Goswami or Lord Shiva, still, because that person is representing the Guru Parampara, the lineage of teachers, something can be pulled out of them. So even more important than the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So before we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's always important for us to understand what is the Srimad Bhagavatam exactly. The Srimad Bhagavatam, at the very beginning of it, it says, Dharma prochita kaitavota paramo nirmatsaramam satam. That the Srimad Bhagavatam is Dharma prochita kaitavota paramo, which means that it's interested in Dharma. What is Dharma? As being said here in the purport, it says, the Lord did not care because he was very conscious of his duty. So what is Dharma? Dharma can mean duty, but it has variegated meanings. Actually, I was speaking to Devavrata Prabhu, and he said there's many places in the Srimad Bhagavatam where Srila Prabhupada translates the word Dharma in a different way. So what is Dharma? Dharma, in one sense, means occupational duty. Means we have some activity we have to perform in the course of the day in order to keep our body and soul together. This is known as one level of swadharma. In relationship to our daily circumstances, we have to rise, we have to bathe, we have to engage in some type of activity in order to maintain ourselves. But then beyond that dharma, this occupational dharma, is a dharma which is known as our intrinsic nature, or our jaiva dharma, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls it, our nitya dharma. What is our nitya dharma? Our nitya dharma is an intrinsic nature which underlines all the activities that we do at any given moment. So at any given moment, we have to engage in some type of activity. But the intrinsic nature which pervades all of those activities is ultimately our dharma. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is interested in speaking about dharma, but what type of dharma, what type of intrinsic nature, what type of occupational activity is it interested in? In order to understand that, we can understand what it's not interested in. It's not interested in kaitava dharma, which is cheating dharma. A cheating practice of a cheating process of spiritual realization. So what does kaitava mean? Kaitava means a bodily conception of life. At performing activities simply for giving pleasure to the body. Because the Bhagavad Gita explains that there is an intrinsic nature that is different, or rather a categorical difference between our intrinsic nature as consciousness and the body that we possess, which is a vehicle by which we experience consciousness. Bhumir napanalo vayu kaham manabhurevacha ahankara ityam me binam prakritirashtata. That this material body is composed of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the gross elements of our material body. But beyond those gross elements, the Bhagavad Gita explains that also categorically different from who we are as eternal spiritual consciousness is the mind, intelligence, and the false ego. Which means the false ego is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam as being yaya samohito jivo atmanam shri gunatmakam paropi manyate nartam tatkritam chabi padyate. That despite the fact we're transcendental, we identify with the circumstance of this material body so heavily that we consider this body to be ourselves. So anything that we've achieved in relationship to the body, any type of identification that we've cultivated within our subtle body according to the activities that we've engaged in, tava kriyas tava idam manovai karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. That activity that we've performed on the level of the material body has stuck to our subtle body, and we've accepted that which is stuck to our subtle body according to the way we've associated with this world as ourselves. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is interested in Vedyam Vastam Atra Vastra Sivadam Tapatrayo Mulanam. It's interested in cutting away that kaitava. It's interested in cutting away that cheating, which is the identification with the material body. So we see in this pastime that for one who is beyond the conception of the body, Krishna is intrinsically always beyond any type of material conception. But simultaneously, the Srimad Bhagavatam gives us information of who we are in relationship to Krishna. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Ekobahunam Yovididati Kaman. That we are all parts and parcels of Krishna. And being parts and parcels of Krishna, we possess the same potential as Krishna. We possess the same qualities as Krishna, but in a minute form. Just as a drop of ocean in the ocean possess all the qualities of the ocean itself, but it is intrinsically different from the entire ocean in its capacity and power. So we possess all the same qualities of Krishna within a minute proportion. And one who's in awareness of that nature, of who they are in relationship to Krishna, they are what is known as abhaya, freed from fear. So how does one cultivate fearlessness? How does one cultivate a sense that nothing in this world can possibly touch me? That can only come if one has a proper direction that they are going to move in terms of who they are in the level of truth. Vedyam vasam atra vastra sivadam tapatrayo mulanam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is interested in distinguishing reality from illusion. So the illusion is that we are this material body, and to pursue anything in relationship to this material body simply produces more entanglement within it. Yehi samsparsa jaboka duka yonaya evate advayantfanta konteya nate sru ramate buddha. Anytime you act on the level of the body, your consciousness enters into the objects which your body has interacted with. Your mind enters into those objects, and then you develop a sense of self according to that conception. So one needs to accept a process. One needs to accept activity which doesn't allow our material activities to stick to our consciousness. So this is explained that the way to go beyond this nature where everything sticks to us is that one has to engage in spiritual inquiry. One has to become very serious in relationship to understanding who they are beyond the body. Because as long as one chooses not to, parabhavas yavara bodha jato yavan jignasata atma tattvam, as long as one doesn't engage in inquiry into the nature of who they are beyond the material body, all of their activities will simply end in misery, in defeat. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is interested in giving us knowledge of who we are beyond this material body. Furthermore, understanding that one is not the material body is not enough. So the Srimad Bhagavatam provides activities which one can engage in beyond the material body. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yator bhakti ardhoksaje ahoitu kiya pratiyata yeat mam supersediti. That the supreme dharma that the Srimad Bhagavatam is interested in is to engage us in activity which is beyond this mind and body, and that activity is cultivating a mood of service in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Any activities which one performs in relationship to Krishna does not stick to the consciousness, because it's being performed on the level of who we are originally. As long as we act on a false conception of who we are, then everything has to stick to the consciousness, and then we'll continue to perpetuate that conception of ourselves. But anything which is performed on the level of service, anything that's performed on the level of devotion, this furthers our intrinsic nature as a spiritual being. It's just like if you take an iron rod and you put it into fire. That iron rod gradually develops the same qualities as fire. So, Bhagavan, Krishna, Bhakti, and the Bhakta, the devotee. Bhakti is devotional service, devotional activities. Anything which is performed in relationship to Bhagavan is Bhakti. Any activities which have been given by the Srimad Bhagavatam, that is Bhakti. When one associates with those activities carry the same nature as Krishna himself. So by absorbing oneself in those activities and chanting Krishna's name and hearing his holy fame and worshiping the deity and telling others about Krishna and taking prasadam, this absorbs the consciousness and the fire of Krishna consciousness. And gradually the impurities which we've acquired through associating with this world are eradicated through the process of devotional service. So this whole pastime of Hiranyayaksha being slain by Lord Varaha, it's showing us how far material conditioning can actually bring us. How far we can go away from our original constitutional position. That we can become so overcome by our false ego. We can become so overcome by pride and intoxication of that pride and that false ego that despite the fact Lord Varaha is acting in such a way to benefit Hiranyayaksha, still he's not able to see that benefit. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to bring us closer to Krishna by showing us examples of people who've drifted so far from Krishna that they've actually considered anything that Krishna is doing to help them to be adverse to their ultimate purpose. And simultaneously, we hear about devotees who, despite the fact they may seem to be neglected, they may seem to be cheated, they may seem to be defamed, they may even be killed. Despite the fact that they have all these things, they still maintain the forbearance to continue going on serving Krishna. Narayana paras sarve nakutasta nabidite swarga apavarga narke su api tulyartha darshana. That a devotee who's fixed in transcendental consciousness, even if they're put into an unpleasant circumstance, such as hell, a hellish circumstance, or whether they're put into a pleasant circumstance, a very heavenly circumstance, those things are not a consideration for one who's fixed in transcendental consciousness, because they have the gift of service. And that gift of service helps their consciousness be steady in all pleasant and unpleasant circumstances. So when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're coming in direct contact with personalities who have that consciousness. And when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, tada puna mukta samasta bandhanas tadbhava bhavanukrita sayakriti. That mood of devotion, it rubs off on us. And that fixity in all circumstances, pleasant or unpleasant, that becomes our intrinsic nature, or rather that intrinsic nature is brought out through the power of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyam vai shriyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhakti upadyate pumsam soka moha bhayapaha. Simply by hearing transcendental sound vibration that's emanating from the Srimad Bhagavatam, simply by associating with that transcendental vibration, what takes place is we develop awareness of Krishna being Paramapurusha. In developing awareness of Krishna being the Paramapurusha helps us eradicate our Purusha Swabhava, or thinking, I'm the man. I'm the center of the show, and everything revolves around me. By developing awareness of how Krishna is the center of the show, Krishna is the center of attention, then we enter into our natural state of simply trying to be a servant. Krishna Paramapurushe. And what's the other result? Bhakte upadyate pumsam. That natural feeling of devotion, it sprouts up from the heart naturally. By hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, devotion comes out of the heart. Soka moha bhayapaha. All soka, lamentation, lamenting over the things I don't have, hankering for the things I don't have, lamenting for the things I've lost. All the circumstances which question my false ego, question my stake within this material world, causes soka. Moha, illusion. Illusion means I'm accepting this material body to be mine, and anything within relationship to this material body is also mine. And when those things are taken away, I suffer. Illusion. Soka moha bhayapaha. And all fearfulness is eradicated. Because when one is situated in the consciousness of being a servant, there's nothing to appropriate, there's nothing to possess, there's nothing to try to lord over. When we are fixed in that consciousness of being a servant, there's no question of any lamentation, any illusion, or any fearfulness. Rather, one is existing in their natural consciousness of Jiver Swarupoi Krishner Nityadas, that I am an eternal servant of Krishna. And this will produce peace, this will produce purpose, and this will produce an ultimate direction for the living entity to move in, rather than accepting the various demands of the mind and materialistic society. Hare Krishna. So we can have some discussion if there's any questions or comments. Rabindranath Prabhu.
Yeah, you mentioned how the hearer is better than the speaker. Where is that from?
It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Aham vedmi sukho veti vyaso veti naveti va. This is brought up in relationship to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's speaking Sanatana Goswami, he said, actually, due to your sincerity, these things are coming out. So, if the hearer is sincere, then it can pull things out of the speaker. This is also mentioned in the past time with Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramananda Roy is speaking, he said, I don't know how these things are coming. My only conclusion is because you're desiring for them to come. So if the hearer is sincere enough, then the speaker can reveal things which they may have not even been aware of previously.
So, in other words, that you're making that conclusion from that.
Yeah, it's specific. If you draw from these two pastimes and you see the emphasis that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is putting on the speaker, and the emphasis that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu puts on the hearer, and the emphasis that Ramananda Roy puts on the hearer, you can clearly see that the hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified significantly, as well as Maharaj Parikshit, as well as Sutta Goswami. His qualification to eventually speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of Namasharanya was because he was a proper hearer of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Okay, thank you.
Prima.
Wonderful class, very insightful class, very deep, thoughtful. Can you say what is qualification of somebody who is good here?
What is the qualification?
What is like?
I don't remember the shloka, but what made Arjuna, I won't mention the shloka I don't remember, I will mention what I do remember. What made Arjuna qualified to hear was Karpanya dosha parahat swabhava, that he was qualified because he submitted himself to Krishna humbly. So tadvidi pranipratena paniprashnena shevaya upadaksyanti te jnanams jnaninas tatvidarshana. For someone who's eager to hear, or for someone who wants to enter into transcendental knowledge, there's three qualities which Krishna says needs to be cultivated. That is pranipat, one must be submissive. One can't think, I got it all figured out. That won't work. That works even in the university or mundane education. If one walks into a classroom and they feel like they got it all figured out, but I'm just here for the ride, they won't actually benefit from what the teacher has to give. But you'll see that students who are submissive and who try to learn and try to understand what the teacher is speaking and try to extract from the experience that the teacher has, they excel. So pranipat, one has to be submissive. Pranipakshna, which means one has to have questions. It's not that one just comes and asks, absurd inquiries. Srila Prabhupada says, no absurd inquiries, nothing in relationship to this material mind and body. Not my bank balance, not my family situation, not this thing, that thing. But how do I progress in my relationship to Krishna? That eagerness has to be there, those questions. And finally, sevaya. One has to have a mood of service. Means that one is willing to work with their physical body in order to do some practical activity in order to serve the person who has knowledge. So the qualification is the example of Arjuna, but Krishna specifically says that the qualification of someone who wants to receive transcendental knowledge is they have to be submissive, they have to be inquisitive, and they have to possess a mood of service.
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
If he has a question,
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for the lecture. You've explained it very well, how because of the false ego, we we develop attraction to the material world. And I would like you to explain it one more time, please. How does the process happen in a way? What's the science behind it? So when I touch a material object, what happens? Why do I think it's mine?
Yeah. It begins in the teachings of Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sanatana Goswami. He says, Krishna bhule asi jeev anahir bahir mukh atoeva maya tare samsara dukh. That what causes the living entity to chase after the things of this world is forgetfulness of Krishna. This is the root of chasing after the material energy. So what causes us to identify with the false ego is that forgetfulness of Krishna. The false ego acts as a via medium or a filter by which the pure serving capacity of the living entity can be reflected through that lens of material consciousness. And within the lens of that material consciousness, one develops an identity of who they are in relationship to this world. And that mood of service is transformed via that lens of material consciousnness into a mood of exploitation. So the whole process of bhakti yoga is to become purified of that film of material consciousness. And by becoming purified of that film, naturally one will see who they are originally. And that purification process is to remember Krishna and to never forget him, chanting Hare Krishna, studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. All these things purify the lens of our material consciousness. Just like water which falls from the sky is originally pure, but when it mixes with mud, it becomes polluted. It becomes distorted, opaque. But through a filtering process, it develops its same original quality. So Krishna consciousness helps us develop our original quality of our ego of being a servant of Krishna rather than an exploiter of this world. Archita Prabhu.
Thank you very much for a very nice presentation as usual, very thoughtful, scholarly. I think on this last question that this young man, I don't know his name, just asked, I think he kind of went around it. His direct question was, how is it the object that you become affected by an object? Isn't that what you're asking?
What exactly I'm asking is, how, first of all, how do we define creation?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. But how you're affected by the object is that you want to be happy. The underlying force behind everything is because we're originally Sat, Chit, Ananda, we're eternal, we're conscious, and we want bliss because bliss is our nature. It's the nature of God, so we want to be also blissful, happy. But when we're in this material world, we're trying to get happiness out of objects and controlling others, and this will never work because that's not our nature, you see? When you approach an object, Krishna explains in the Gita, Dhyatam Vishayo Pungsam, Pungsam Tesha Jaya. You're meditating on that object, a car or a house or something, thinking it's going to make you happy, in spite of so much evidence to the contrary. Because how many cars have you owned? How many houses have you owned over so many lifetimes? They never made you happy. So Krishna consciousness, as he explained very nicely, there's Bhagavan, there's Bhakti, the activities in relation to Bhagavan, and then there's the Bhakta, you. So when you follow that natural process of bringing yourself in contact with Krishna through service, then you get the real happiness that you're looking for. Then you realize that a new BMW or a big house in Beverly Hills, they're not going to make me happy. It's not that you can't have them, but if you use them in Christian service, then you get happiness through that service connection, not through the object itself. Okay?
Prabhu in the purple.
So my question is kind of coming from, yeah. So I'm wondering about to what extent, in terms of devotional service, should one upkeep their physical or the physical essence? So say, for example, as a painter, and like hurt wrists and such. To what level of attention should I take care of my body to upkeep my devotional service?
Yeah, the Srimad Bhagavatam gives this wonderful verse which answers your question directly. It says, Kamasindriya pritir labo jiveta yavata, jivasya tattva jignasya nartho yascheka karmabi. Which means that one should arrange their life in such a way that they can maintain body and soul together, but the majority of time should be dedicated to spiritual inquiry. So it varies person to person according to the psychophysiological nature that a particular person has. Some people may need to do more in order to upkeep the body because they may have people that are dependent on them that they have to facilitate facility for. Whereas there's others who may not necessarily be in that situation where they can minimize those needs a lot more. But regardless, the general principle is smartvayam satatam vishnur vishmartvayo najatuchit sarva iti nasetasur etayor eva kinkara. That the primary principle of Krishna consciousness is to never forget Krishna and to always remember him. So everything should be organized around that principle. And if one is drifting too much into the upkeep of the material body, then this is what's known as prayas, or over-endeavoring for mundane achievements. So it requires introspection, and it also requires proper guidance. The life of a devotee is a life of guidance. So we have to take guidance from people who are experienced in the practice, and then we can adjust our circumstance according to what will facilitate our absorption and remembering Krishna. Because ultimately the point of life is ante narayana smritihi. We have to live our life in such a way that at the time of death, we're remembering Krishna. This is the ultimate purpose of it all. That's why the Srimad Bhagavatam says, just keep what you have to keep together for, living a healthy life, but don't forget, ante narayana smritihi, that you have to leave the body, and your leaving of the body needs to be fixed on Krishna. Otherwise, you have to accept another material body.
Thank you.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. Very, very nice. There's something I wanted to just talk very briefly about, because I keep hearing the word hearing, without any explanation about what anyone can hear. A dog can hear, a pig can hear. Does that mean he becomes Krishna conscious? Not at all. Hearing has to be done in a specific way where you will become not only Krishna conscious, but more and more Krishna conscious as a result of that kind of hearing. So what kind of hearing is Prabhupada talking about? We should hear in a mood of appreciation, first of all. This is going to benefit me. How wonderful. Here I am sitting and I'm receiving this knowledge, which I am not only hearing, but if I apply it to my life, then wonderful things, great things will happen. The most of which is I become blissfully Krishna conscious, happy all the time, because I am blissfully Krishna conscious. So what's very important is that when we are hearing, there should be a mood, there should be a feeling, there should be a thought, there should be an idea, appreciation, glorification. This person knows so much and is giving me something that I didn't have before. How wonderful he is, how wonderful God is for giving me him. So the whole process of hearing is one of deep, solid, ever-increasing appreciation or gratitude. And when it comes with gratitude, and not because I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, I'm so glorious, I'm so knowledgeable, I deserve all this, no, not at all. That's not the mood. The mood is not that I deserve it. The mood is that I must strive continuously to deserve it, so that Krishna will then bless me to appreciate it. And when I appreciate it more and more, he will bless me with the understanding of those things which are coming from this Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's 8:40. Shamrar, you had something to say? Ananda Kirtan had something. You have something?
Yeah, sure. Hare Krishna. In this section, there's one purport, I forget who, but one acharya says that these pastimes of Varaha fighting Hiranyaksha and then Varaha lifting the earth, they're two separate pastimes that happen at different times. But the speaker of the Bhagavatam amalgamated those two pastimes. And it seems like in the purport, Prabhupada is like going along with that. I forget the last sentence of the purport, but something like, and therefore that's why Varaha had to save the earth and simultaneously fight Hiranyaksha. So it seemed like even like Prabhupada was going along with the amalgamation of the two pastimes. I'm just wondering why Prabhupada's doing that, or why even the Bhagavatam speaker put those pastimes together if they happen at separate times.
Because the Srimad Bhagavatam's primary purpose is Nigamakalpataru Galitam Palam Sukhamaka Amritadra Vasamyitam. It's meant to bring out a devotional spirit. So any history within the Srimad Bhagavatam which is mentioned is being mentioned because it can bring out bhakti. So even if there's an amalgamation of the pastimes, it's not that there's a historical inaccuracy, but what's being emphasized isn't necessarily the historical specificity of the scenario, but that which is meant to bring out Krishna prema through the study of it. Hare Krishna. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarum vischa kripa sindhudevacha, Patitanam bhavanevyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha.